Hi, I'm Brendan, game developer and a lecturer. I've been teaching at a local university and the recent semester has just started. I have a bunch of students who are really excited to start working on their characters, and one of the hottest requests was to deep dive into human anatomy. In this video, I'm going to focus on the human upper arm, and we can start from the bone structure all the way till the different muscle layers. So I hope you guys like it. Let's get started. Alright, so as you can see on my screen, it's a sculpture that I've made with bone structures and muscle groups. And over here, I've also created the different layers for depiction. So let's start with just the skeletal structure for now. And over here, we're just going to focus on the humerus bone. There are a couple of things that we should be looking out for the humerus bone. So if I were to draw the humerus bone, it will look something like this. Right, where there is this rounded top, there is this rounded joint, and over here there is this bulge, and it tapers towards a thinner part of the bone, right? And it goes all the way down to this part where it flares up again. This portion here is where the joint is towards the scapular bone. So if I were to go into 3D right now and take a look at it, and take a closer look at this joint where you could see almost a socket, right? If I were to isolate the scapular piece, there is a socket here for the humerus bone to be connected to. So basically it's like a joint that is inside a concave space, and that allows the humerus bone to be moving around. So if I were to turn back on the humerus bone, this is how the joint connects. And this is how your arm is moving like that, right? And also at the bottom part, it's worth mentioning the shape of that humerus bone. So we can see this portion of the bone to be like a cylinder, right? And over here, it's where it connects towards the higher piece over like that. So you can imagine like the connection goes like this, right? Almost like another cylinder that extrudes out. This is where the connection is to form this joint. And this is in relation to the ulna and the radius bone over here. As you can see, this is where this piece of bone rotates and moves around, right? So if you could see like the way this piece of cylinder, and you have another piece which is the ulna and the radius, they rotate around this portion of the humerus bone, just like how this socket is fitting into the scapula, and this allow the bone to be rotating in this direction, right? So that's how your arm is moving, and this portion here, it's how your elbow is moving like that. So this is something that is worth mentioning for the humerus bone. And I think we can also look deeper into the ulna and the radius into the future, but for now, let's just focus on the upper arm. So I'm going to turn on all the layers right now. Bring back the muscles for the forearm. I'm going to hide the pectoralis major, the deltoid. So let's look at this portion here, where we are dissecting the muscles that is closest to the bone. Over here, there's two big pieces called the biceps, and biceps means by two pieces of muscles. One, it's connected towards the humerus, the top part of the humerus bone, and then the other piece goes up and connects towards the scapular. So in this case, as you can see, this is the scapular. The other connection point is towards the ulna and the radius bone. So the ulna is this piece, and the radius is this piece. The radial bone and the ulna are basically what allows you to pronate, but we can talk more about that in the future. But what the two bicep pieces are connected to these two pieces of bone is to allow, I'm going to take a screenshot here, paste it here, and illustrate how when these two pieces of muscles were to constrict, when the two bicep pieces were to constrict, it pulls the connection of the ulna upwards that allows your arm to do this. And when the arm were to relax itself, the biceps likely would relax, and in turn, the three pieces at the back, called the triceps, would start working, and that turns the arm back into its relaxed position. So over here, when I were to look at the back portion, this piece of muscle is called the triceps. So if I were to look at this, the three colors here, tri means three, right? So in this case, there's three different pieces in different colors. When this piece were to constrict, as I illustrated here, it allows the bone to move backwards, and that's how you can have your arm go back into a straightened position. One last piece, it's this piece of tendon, right, of the triceps that is linked towards the ulnar bone, and that is where you could see this pulling and pushing of the muscles. So over here, when the triceps were to constrict, it pulls this backwards, and when the biceps were to constrict, it pulls the bone forward. Right, so hopefully that helps you paint a better picture on how our body works. It's really amazing. So there is two pieces of muscles left to talk about. One is the deltoid, and the other one is the brachialis. So let's turn on the deltoid, and you could see there is this large piece of muscle at the top. And it's made up of three different pieces. There is a frontal deltoid, and there is a back piece, and then there is a middle piece as well. The frontal piece is joined towards the clavicle, which is also known as the collarbone, and that allows you to swing your arm forward, and you could see this constriction, and the collarbone or the clavicle is being moved together with it as well. So the back piece, the two pieces at the back, is connected towards the scapular, and the scapular is basically the what you call it as the shoulder bone. The scapular piece is basically the protruding piece at your back. When you were to move your arm like this in this position, you will feel like there is this protrusion at the back. That is basically this bone at the bottom here, this very sharp tip pointing out, protruding out. So you have the back that is allowing the arm to swing backwards, and then you also have this frontal piece that is allowing to swing forward, and that rotates around the humerus bone, which I mentioned just now earlier. Alright, so this piece, as I mentioned, it's the deltoid piece, and one thing to note is when it starts to converge, again another image just for depiction purposes, you want to make sure that when it converges over here, it converges behind the biceps. Right, so this piece that we are going to talk about is called the brachialis, and that means the deltoid would sit between the brachialis and the biceps, not between the triceps and the brachialis, right? Just making sure that this joint here sits at the right position, not here. Okay, this is a mistake that I used to do. In fact, I'm still doing it right now, and I need to remind myself constantly that it needs to sit between these two pieces to make sure that it is exactly right. So coming back to this one, the brachialis is basically a piece that is sitting between the biceps and the triceps. So this piece here sits right between, and we can also look at a couple of references in the next tutorial on how can we apply this onto drawings, and also real life references where we could see muscle groups and how they look with a skin and muscle and fat on it. Right, so those are probably going to be very interesting for us to translate our knowledge right now into actual execution when we were to sculpt something, when we were to draw something, right? So that's gonna be the next module, so stay tuned and look out for that. One last piece here that is kind of missing would be the Brachioradialis. The Brachioradialis sits from between the triceps and the brachialis, and it sprouts out from this corner here and goes all the way down towards the forearm. This is a muscle that it's a piece that also helps you with pronating, but it's also quite a large piece of muscle for you to do quite a bit of our day-to-day work. So over here, I think it's pretty interesting for us to look at all the muscles and how it works. And it's worth mentioning that the underside of the arm, where the biceps and the triceps were to sit side by side, there is no muscles in between that sits between them. Unlike the upper side, there are like two pieces, the brachialis and the brachioradialis, sitting between the triceps and the biceps. The underside only has the biceps and the triceps. And similarly, we will also look at real life references and see how we can apply this theory over. In the future videos, I'll also be touching upon the scapular muscles, the infraspinatus, the supraspinatus, teres major, teres minor, and how they function. and we can also touch base on the Brachioradialis. So that's basically it. So do look out for the next tutorial, and I can expand a bit further on the application of this knowledge into real life references. Alright, stay tuned and see you around.